A man welcomes a noble guest, inviting him to enjoy the show before him. His hand gestures toward a group of enslaved girls lined up like objects for display. In this world, strength dictates worth, and those born powerless are destined to be trampled. The nobleman, a marquis of notorious reputation, is reassured that the girls may look filthy now, but they will soon be washed just in time for the evening's auction. He is told it is only a snack before the main event. Yet, beneath the surface of this festivity lies a single brutal truth: the unfortunate are powerless, and the powerless are prey. One of the men drags a trembling girl forward, ready to take his turn, but the marquis halts him. His gaze fixes on another one with short hair, quiet eyes, and an unsettling calmness. He demands that this one be brought to him. As the girl is pulled forward, the marquis declares that he will buy her without hesitation. To him, there is nothing more pleasurable than watching the despair of girls who pretend to have no feelings, only to break beneath his control. For this man, there is no greater joy in the world. The girl stands silently before him. Calmly, she mutters that the data had been correct. The marquis falters in confusion, then shock floods his face. Before he can react, a swift motion follows. The girl injects something into his neck. A paralyzing poison, disguised as a mere prick. The marquis collapses instantly. She watches him fall, her expression unchanged. For her, this is not murder, it is duty. In this cruel world, the weak, in order to survive, must devour the strong. Later, the scene shifts to a hidden chamber, where she receives her payment. Her mission was flawless: no wounds, no poison traces, nothing suspicious. Everything appears as though the marquis simply died of a heart attack. The handler praises her efficiency. The task was almost too easy for someone known as the goddess of death. The assassin remains silent, her eyes empty. Power, she knows, only belongs to those willing to consume others. Some wonder if that young girl could truly be the legendary assassin. She seems far too young, far too fragile. But the truth is, darker appearances deceive. Beneath that youthful face lies a monster who has ended dozens of lives: men, women, elders, even children. She kills without hesitation, without remorse, without emotion. She walks alone through a rain-soaked alley. She pauses as she spots a small cat drenched and trembling beneath a broken crate. For a moment, something human flickers within her eyes. She kneels, covers the cat gently with her cloak, and sits silently beside it as the storm pours down. Then, without warning, the bridge beneath them gives way. Wood cracks. The girl and the cat plunge into the darkness below. The next scene opens in a divine courtroom beyond mortal comprehension. An angelic voice resounds through the chamber, declaring that this soul has taken hundreds of lives, the worst of the worst. The verdict is simple: she must be sent to hell. There are no objections. Justice, it seems, will finally claim her. But then, a voice interrupts. The cat, now in spiritual form, steps forward. It pleads with the angels to stop. This girl, it insists, is not entirely wicked. She saved him, risked her life to do so. Surely such a heart deserves mercy. The assassin watches the scene unfold in silence, her mind strangely calm. So that was how it ended, she thinks. She saved the cat, fell, and died. Perhaps this is fitting. The cat's desperate words echo: she has a kind heart. But she rejects the thought. In her mind, she is a terrible person, someone beyond saving. She admits she never cared about life or death. In truth, she always wanted to die, but no one had ever been able to kill her. A godly voice speaks, not in anger, but in amusement. A terrible character, yes, yet one who saved another's life. Perhaps there is something different about her after all. The voice decides to give her another chance. She will be entrusted with a new task, one far greater than death itself. She will bear the power of love. Light engulfs her, then darkness. When she opens her eyes again, a strange warmth surrounds her. A gentle voice speaks somewhere nearby, surprised that she is awake. The girl blinks, disoriented. Everything feels soft, clean, and unbearably bright. She glances around, confusion taking over. What is this place? Why does her body feel so small? The realization hits her like a shock. She is an infant, cradled in the arms of an unfamiliar man. The warmth she feels is foreign, suffocating. Panic rises within her, and she lets out a piercing scream that echoes through the air. Two men stand before her, trying to guess what she wants. One wonders if she's hungry, while the other insists she only wants to play. Meanwhile, deep inside, the child screams silently, "What kind of hell is this?" Her name, in this new world, is Era. In this world, she is just an ordinary baby, barely 1 year old. At least, that's what everyone believes. But to her, this place feels like torture. After destroying so many lives in her past existence, even after death, she has somehow returned, reborn into a world that already feels like hell. The two men, her brothers, continue their playful argument about her needs. One insists she must be hungry, the other laughs that she clearly just wants attention. Era can't respond, though her mind is sharp and her thoughts lucid. Her brother's loud voices echo around her, and she thinks bitterly of a dream she had recently, a dream of her past life. In that life, she was known as Ta, the goddess of death, the legendary assassin who inspired both fear and awe. She sighs inwardly, questioning why her previous life ended so suddenly, only for her to wake up like this, trapped inside a baby's body, surrounded by doting strangers. One of the men, Leon, leans closer to her, lifting her gently into his arms. He calls her his clever little sister, kisses her forehead, and marvels at how adorable she looks, even with such an emotionless face. The other man, Gilbert, her second brother, laughs softly and says that it's obvious she just wants to cuddle with him. Leon chuckles, admitting that he can't deny it. The two brothers, Leon and Gil, bicker affectionately over her, both clearly infatuated with their baby sister. Leon says they're taking Era to see their mother, while Gilbert insists she wants to meet their father instead. The truth, however, is simpler: they just missed her. It has been a full year since they last saw their precious little sister. Era stares at them in silence, unsure how to react. In her past life, she had been an orphan who never knew the warmth of family. Every smile, every gentle touch, feels foreign to her. She recalls the gods' words, the divine command to learn the power of love. But she can't help but wonder if this strange, unfamiliar warmth is really what love is supposed to be. Her thoughts are interrupted by a flicker of movement beyond the balcony. Her instincts, sharp as ever, ignite. An assassin lurks in the shadows, preparing to strike. She recalls the god mentioning something about revenge. Could this be what he meant? Before she can think further, the assassin leaps. Though trapped in a baby's body, Era's reflexes from her former life kick in. With quick precision, she grabs a nearby pin and throws it. The strike lands perfectly straight into the assassin's eye. He tumbles backward, crashing over the balcony rail. A dull thud echoes outside. Leon and Gil turn sharply toward the window, startled. They see it open and frown. Leon mutters that the breeze might make Era catch a cold and quickly moves to close it. At the same moment, Gilbert notices that his brooch is missing. He cries out in panic, accusing his brother of teasing him, but Leon retorts that he should have been more careful. Gilbert insists that he never left it near Era. The two brothers continue arguing, unaware of what just happened. Leon frowns, thinking it odd he remembers fastening that brooch securely for self-defense. Eventually, they decide to search for it together and leave the room. As the door closes, the world around Era fades and she finds herself once again standing before the god who sent her here. He greets her with calm amusement, calling her by the name she once bore, the goddess of death. He tells her that she has regained her memories faster than expected. There is no need for delay now, he says. For this time, she has a divine purpose to save a kingdom on the verge of collapse using her unmatched assassination skills. Era's eyes widen. Save a kingdom? With assassination? She looks down at her tiny hands, chubby and useless, her baby form barely able to crawl. The god studies her face with an amused smile as she stares back in disbelief. Well, he says gently, don't make such a face. With a casual wave of his hand, he sets her down on a large bear-shaped couch that feels soft beneath her tiny body, wondering aloud where to begin. He finally starts by telling her the truth about the kingdom she was born into. It is on the verge of collapse. The peace that now surrounds her is only temporary. The land that seems prosperous and calm will soon be drowned in blood and betrayal. She has been reincarnated 200 years before the era she once lived in. During her former lifetime, this very kingdom had already long since perished, forgotten by history, erased from existence. What does all this mean? She wonders. The god explains that the royal family, blinded by luxury and trust, never learned suspicion or caution. One after another, they fell victim to assassin. A chain of bloodshed led to war, and eventually, the kingdom crumbled into ruin. That was their destiny, but now, that fate must be rewritten. However, the god admits there is one limitation. He cannot intervene personally. Divine interference is forbidden. He looks at her meaningfully, hinting that the task falls to her alone. Era frowns, her voice quiet in her thoughts. Even though I was called the goddess of death, she wonders, am I really capable of changing fate? The god's smile sharpens. Exactly because she was the goddess of death, she holds the power to do it. He tells her that with strong enough influence, anything in this world can be changed. She only needs to grow stronger to rebuild herself from the beginning. Her current helpless state, he explains, is her punishment. In her past life, she was the worst of the worst, a being who took countless precious lives that he, the god, had created. Now, she must begin again from infancy and live with the burden of what she once was. Era protests weakly. She is human too, she says she has limits. But the god shakes his head. That, he says, is exactly the problem. It's what makes her so important to him. For all her cruelty and bloodshed, she once chose to save that little cat. That act of compassion proved that her soul is not beyond redemption. Because of that, he decided to give her another chance. For someone who never understood love, he will let her learn what it truly is. Her mission is not only to protect this kingdom but also to experience love, real, selfless love for the first time in her existence. He warns her that, for now, she is still just a child. She must behave according to her age and control her immense mental power and assassin instincts. Her strength is to be used not for killing, but for protection. She is to guard her family and, through them, preserve the fate of the kingdom. Era listens in silence, a flicker of irritation crossing her face. She sighs, remarking inwardly that the god seems much different than before, almost annoyingly sentimental. Was this truly the same being she once met in death? She wonders if he's changed too much, or if she has simply forgotten who he was. She declares that she has no reason to obey him, but the god merely chuckles, his tone carrying quiet authority. Just because she has regained her memories from her past life, he says, doesn't mean she has forgotten everything from her current one. She is still a child of this world, still tied to it by mortal bonds. Then, his gaze hardens slightly. He asks her what she would do if her family were to die before her eyes. Era falls silent, unable to answer. After a long pause, she admits softly that she truly does not understand what love is. The god nods slowly, his voice now calm but firm. Very well, he says. Whether she understands or not, she still has no choice. Those who never knew love must one day experience it and protect it with their own hands. The light around them swirls again, fading back into the warmth of her nursery. The god's voice echoes one last time, steady and final. Learn love, protect it, and in doing so change the fate of this kingdom. He tells her that if she completes this task, she will finally gain her freedom. When she returns to her room, she is startled to find an assassin lunging toward her. Acting on instinct, she throws a pillow at him and swiftly dodges away from the bed. The assassin, realizing that his target is no longer where she was supposed to be, tries to strike again, but Era counterattacks, overpowering him completely and leaving him defeated. It becomes painfully clear that the lives of the royal family members are truly in danger, her life included. The one who was once known as the goddess of death now lives under the name Erafon Annika, bound by divine restrictions that limit even her freedom of will. The first restriction forbids her from taking her own life or performing any act that could lead to her death. The second forbids her from revealing her past to anyone. The third forbids her from disclosing her divine mission. These laws are not mere warnings, they are etched deeply into her very soul, burning into her consciousness as unbreakable commandments. The weight of them is both suffocating and infuriating. Her mission, given by that arrogant god, is painfully clear: to save the kingdom and to protect the royal family targeted by assassins, using the powers she once wielded as the goddess of death. 11 years pass in this mortal shell, and she cannot help but wonder if, on her 12th birthday, the kingdom will truly fall as fate dictates. She tells herself she does not care, but deep down, she is irritated beyond reason. Why is she constantly assigned the most miserable, thankless missions? Why does that god never grant her proper rewards? Her resentment festers so deeply that she is half determined to kill the god who bound her to this farce of a life. Era watches her mother, the queen, playing gently with her, while she silently questions who the woman thinks she is fooling. The king soon steps in, concerned, asking if the queen should not be resting instead of exerting herself. All her strength, he insists, must be going merely into standing on her feet. The queen laughs off his concern, teasing him for being overly worried. He, in turn, remarks that with their sons, Leon and Gil, he had always been much stricter. But when it comes to their daughter, he cannot help but soften. The king gazes at Era with fondness, calling her just like her mother, so beautiful, so delicate that of course he is worried for her. His eyes trace her slender legs, her small hands, and the fragile way she stands, leaning on her slight frame. These two her doting parents are none other than the king and queen of the Shaden kingdom. Together with her two older brothers, they form the family Era has been ordered to protect. Yet, ironically, despite all her divine titles and power, Era has never protected anyone before. It is a task she was once above, and now it is her burden. The king fondly recalls how quickly she learned to walk, far earlier than her brothers. The queen agrees with a soft laugh, finding her struggles both adorable and admirable. But Era knows the truth: she can walk calmly now only because that ridiculous god tampered with her body. Her physical strength far exceeds what it should for a child her age, though she cannot say by how much. She moves faster, reacts sharper, and senses deeper than even her parents could imagine. Yet, she must pretend. It is almost tragic how she must act like a helpless infant when, in truth, she could break bones with a touch. When the queen lifts her gently into her arms, declaring it time for her nap, Era goes silent. As warmth surrounds her, she finds herself unable to meet their eyes or reach out to touch them. The feeling of familial affection, something foreign to the former goddess of death, is both strange and painful. She can neither gaze upon them too long nor allow herself to draw near. For someone who once ruled over death, love itself is the one thing she can neither wield nor understand. They do not even share meals together, and Era wonders how she is supposed to understand or experience love in such a household. After her memories from her past life returned, the truth of her situation became painfully clear. Within the vast castle, her room was ironically the easiest place to infiltrate. As a baby, small and seemingly helpless, she was an ideal target and open invitation for assassins. Yet the castle's layout worked in her favor. Beneath her balcony flowed a wide river, making it remarkably convenient to dispose of both corpses and murder weapons without leaving evidence behind. It seemed that before she had regained her memories, the god had protected her, though that so-called protection came at a strange cost. The divine safeguard had, in fact, drawn a constant stream of assassins to her, as though fate itself wanted to test her vigilance. She could not decide whether it was divine protection or divine mockery. Either way, she had grown accustomed to being a target. When another assassin appeared one night, Era reacted without hesitation. She threw a vial of poisoned syrup directly at his face, its acidic contents burning his skin. The result was swift and messy, but effective. She thought bitterly that popularity was indeed a curse. The incident only deepened her family's obsessive concern for her safety. She mused to herself that perhaps if she demonstrated a bit of her supernatural speed, they might calm down. Yet, if she revealed too much, she risked frightening the man, possibly being cast out altogether. Just as that thought crossed her mind, the door burst open. The queen entered with a tray of sweet biscuits and froze at the sight before her, her young daughter sitting beside a motionless body. A horrified scream tore from her lips as she rushed to Era, pulling her into her arms and pressing a dagger to the fallen assassin's throat. For Era, the feeling of being protected by another was strange and unsettling. It was something entirely foreign to the being she had once been. The goddess of death had never needed saving. When she slid down from her mother's grasp, the queen looked at her with wide eyes, a flicker of awe crossing her face as though realizing her daughter might be a prodigy. A full year passed since Era was reborn as the Princess of Shadin. Recently, she came to another realization about this life and her family. During a heated discussion in the council chamber, the queen suddenly declared that the balcony of Era's room must be removed or, at the very least, its door handles replaced with blades. The announcement stunned the ministers, but she was adamant. An assassin had broken into Era's room, and the queen would not allow such danger again. Era, meanwhile, could only sigh. In her mind, incidents like that were hardly unusual. They happened often enough to be routine. The king, attempting reason, said that removing the balcony was not possible for now, but they would assign a nanny to guard the princess around the clock. Shadin was a kingdom proud of its warrior strength, and he would personally choose someone from the royal guard to protect her. The queen, however, immediately opposed the idea. Era despised strangers. Forcing one upon her would only make her miserable. She reminded everyone how the last nanny had ended in disaster, how Era had cried without pause for an entire day until the woman was dismissed. Gil, her older brother, chimed in with a nod, remembering the ordeal vividly. Watching them argue, Era quietly observed the absurdity of it all. What she had recently come to understand was simple. When it came to their precious princess, her family lost all composure and turned into complete fools. She could barely recall her time before regaining the memories of her past life, but judging by this overindulgent upbringing, she was certain that without her past self-restraint, she would have grown into an insufferably selfish child. Her brothers had been raised decently enough, she supposed, but perhaps even their kindness was another side effect of that meddling god's interference. She sighed softly, realizing that nothing could be done to stop this family's constant bickering. So she did the only thing that ever worked. She began to cry. The moment her wails filled the room, the royal family froze in panic. All arguments ceased instantly, every voice turning to gentle cooing and frantic comfort. Era, her small face damp with tears, hid the faintest smirk behind her sobs. For now, this was her only weapon, her only way to control the chaos that surrounded her. In this household of fools, tears were mightier than any blade. Because if they do not stop, Era will not stop crying. Leon, ever the calm one, gently remarks that his sister must have sensed the tense, negative air that had settled over the family's conversation. At once, they all begin to assure her that they were not arguing at all, calling her their sweet little princess and showering her with apologies. Hearing their flustered voices, Era allows a small smile to form on her face, and that single, innocent expression completely melts their hearts. It is almost absurd. A few tears from her can send them into panic, but one smile, and the royal family collapses into helpless adoration. Observing this reaction, Era quietly concludes that since she is trying to protect them, she might as well smile more often. It keeps them calm, and that, in turn, keeps them safe. 6 years later, the once fragile princess is no longer a helpless child. In the privacy of her chambers, she has just finished subduing another assassin, her movements precise, swift, and deadly. The man lies unconscious at her feet when the voice of her maid, Debola, calls out from the hall. Era drops the body without hesitation, adjusting her posture to appear composed. Era raises an eyebrow and asks what the matter is. The maid stammers that His Majesty is calling for her and urges her to hurry. As Era walks toward the audience chamber, she discreetly checks her hands and clothes. No blood. Good. She has already disposed of the corpse and concealed all traces. Still, she wonders why her father has summoned her so suddenly. When she enters the throne room, the king greets her with a serious expression. The queen sits beside him, her eyes soft but unreadable. The king explains that they have reached a decision regarding her future, more specifically, her fiancé. The announcement catches her off guard. Before she can respond, he adds that her betrothed will be Prince Julius of the neighboring kingdom. The name stirs a faint memory, but she recalls little beyond a vague impression of meeting him once as a child. The king continues, saying that the royal family will soon travel to the neighboring country to formalize the arrangement. The queen adds gently that Era will remain behind with her brothers and should behave well while they are away. The words strike Era with immediate unease. A visit to another kingdom means her parents will be far beyond her reach and therefore, beyond her protection. She masks her worry, but the thought burns within her. How could they possibly survive a day without her watching over them? Before she leaves, the queen asks her to keep this engagement matter a secret from her brothers for now. Era nods obediently, though her thoughts are elsewhere. The scene shifts to the bustling streets of the royal capital. Era, now permitted to wander outside under guard, walks beside her brother Gil. He notices her distant gaze and teases her, asking if she is not enjoying the sights of the city. She shakes her head softly, insisting that is not the case, but her mind is consumed by duty. She must protect her parents and brothers, yet she cannot be in two places at once. Even though she is now trusted to move about freely, her vigilance never wavers. As they continue through the market, a commotion breaks out ahead. Someone stumbles and falls into the street. Era's eyes narrow, focusing sharply. The boy's clothes are torn and dirty, yet the way he carries himself, the stubborn tilt of his chin, the emptiness in his eyes feels hauntingly familiar, just like she had once looked in her past life. Before the boy can run, Gil catches him by the arm. A man rushes over, panting, and exclaims his relief that the fugitive has been caught. Gil demands to know what the boy has done. The man explains coldly that the child is a runaway slave, his slave who bit him and fled. He insists he was only doing his duty in reclaiming what was his. Era's gaze darkens as she looks closer and sees the bruises beneath the boy's tattered clothes. Without hesitation, she stands and declares that she will buy him. Her voice is calm, yet carries the weight of command. The man stares at her in disbelief, scoffing at the absurdity of her offer. Without another word, Era removes one of her earrings, a true gem of royal quality, and tosses it to him. "This is enough," she says coldly. He comes with her. The man's greed silences his protest, and the deal is sealed. The three, Era, Gil, and the freed boy, move into a narrow alley to avoid attention. Gil turns to his sister in frustration, reminding her that they cannot simply own slaves or buy strangers off the street. Era replies quietly that if the boy is no longer a slave, then he belongs nowhere, and perhaps staying with her will be better than being beaten again. Gil raises his voice, exasperated, insisting that she does not even know where the boy came from. He warns that she keeps putting herself in danger again and again. Era sighs, her patience thinning. All those dangerous situations, she murmurs, happened when she was protecting him. She helps the boy to his feet and asks if he wants to run away. Era isn't forbidding him, but she thinks that before anything else, they should first eat something. The little boy then asks her how much they have earned. Era replies that from this money, it all depends on him. Hearing this, the boy's eyes widen with delight, his expression brightening like a cherry on top. But before they can enjoy the moment, a group of bandits appears. Their leader sneers, noticing Era's composed demeanor and the coin pouch at her side. They remark that she seemingly does not look poor, and demand that she hand over everything she has. The man to whom Era had earlier given her earnings turns out to be behind this ambush. He scoffs mockingly, claiming that it's her own fault for walking around without guards, declaring that in this world, the strong defeat the weak. The boy witnesses the scene unfold. His expression changes, his eyes darken, and in the next instant, he launches himself at the man, unleashing an unexpected fury. The air fills with sharp movement and impact as the boy beats the man mercilessly, driven by raw anger and instinct. The bandits are caught off guard, watching their companion crumble under the blows of someone they had underestimated. When the fight ends, the boy turns to Era, still breathing heavily, and asks if they should take back her earrings. But Era, calm and composed, tells him it is not worth it. She has already gotten what she paid for. He declares his decision to serve her from now on, so that she can one day appreciate that earring. Era can't help but smile at his words. In that moment, she thinks that this boy really does resemble her, his stubborn will, his unyielding spirit. If she trains him, perhaps the heavy burden resting on her shoulders will finally lighten. Leon trembles as he looks at what stands before him. Era explains that she bought this boy during her walk through the city earlier that day. She adds that Brother Gil advised her not to have a slave, so she decided to call him a pet instead. Leon stares in disbelief, unable to process the idea of a boy being treated as a pet. Era, however, takes the boy along with her, determined to change his clothes and feed him properly. Gil tells Leon that right after Era's purchase, they got into trouble. Era had paid with her earring, and after that, nothing else happened. The boy took care of everything. Gil admits that the boy might actually be useful. If raised properly, he could become someone strong enough to protect Patricia. That was why Gil agreed to keep him around. Leon, however, doesn't immediately understand why Gil would allow some boy to get so close to Era. Suspicion lingers in his thoughts, but Gil's attention soon shifts elsewhere. He mentions that their father seems to be up to something lately, and if he decides to marry Era off somewhere far away, they won't be able to protect her. Leon teases him, accusing him of having a sister complex, but Gil quickly argues that he's simply worried about her as an older brother. Meanwhile, Era helps the boy remove his worn cloak. As she does, the truth becomes clear: he is a half-human, also known as a half-blood. Because of their inhuman strength and speed, such beings are often hunted and sold by slave traders. The boy lowers his gaze and quietly asks if she called him a pet because of what he is: a half-blood, a creature born between two worlds and belonging to neither. Era tells him that she truly didn't know about his situation. It was the brothers who had decided to leave him behind. Yet, she quickly brushes the matter aside, saying that what's important right now is the bath. She then realizes she still doesn't know his name. The boy quietly replies that he doesn't have one. He was only ever called Hey or Kid. Era pauses, thinking that she can't keep addressing him like that. She needs to call him something. The boy, with calm acceptance, assures her that he doesn't mind if she comes up with a name for him. After all, she is his owner now. As Era washes him, her mind turns over different ideas, wondering what name would suit him. Meanwhile, the boy studies her in silent confusion. He finds her strange. After all, he is covered in dirt, yet she is washing him herself without a trace of disgust. She doesn't even care that her own clothes are getting soaked and stained. Moreover, she shows no fear of how he looks or acts, as though none of it matters to her. When they rode in the carriage earlier, he couldn't see the building clearly, but now that they are here, he finally realizes just how massive it is. Her house isn't merely large, it's grand, more like a palace. She's clearly not an ordinary noblewoman. He recalls hearing one of the maids refer to her as princess, and that only deepens his confusion. As Era continues to think about what to name him, her mind drifts back to her own past. Once, she too had no name. She had worked tirelessly, and before she realized it, everyone had simply begun referring to her as that. It was a lonely memory that still lingered deep inside her. To her, a name carries weight. It gives someone identity and meaning. That thought finally makes her decision firm. She looks at the boy and declares that from now on, she will call him Toto. The boy repeats it softly, almost testing the sound. Then he nods with a small smile, saying that from now on, he will only respond to that name. A few days after Toto's arrival, whispers begin to spread through the royal palace. Era calls out to him during their lesson, asking if he even wants to learn at all. Toto looks away, uncertain. He wonders how many days have passed since he came here long enough to lose count. He's been kept mostly inside Era's chambers, hidden from sight. She had warned him once that if her father were to find out about him, he would surely give the boy a severe beating. Still, compared to his past life, this isn't so bad. His previous owners treated him harshly. Here, there are no beatings, and for that, he feels quietly grateful. They feed him well, he isn't chained, and no one has raised a hand against him. Yet, he can't help but think that his new owner might have a strange hobby. Why else would someone of her standing keep a boy like him hidden away? He wonders if perhaps she bought him out of pity. The thought unsettles him. Era, noticing his lack of focus during their lesson, sighs and says they will continue later, after some rest. But before she can leave, he blurts out that he believes he could be more useful to her as a bodyguard rather than a student. His tone is firm, his expression resolute. It is a rare moment of self-assurance, one that makes Era pause and look at him anew. Toto wants to fight, not sit quietly with books. His restlessness grows each time Era hands him another volume to study. But Era insists it is still too early for him to begin combat training. To Toto, it feels as if she doesn't take him seriously at all. Frustration burns in his chest. What could a crybaby girl like her possibly understand? Fighting is the only thing he knows how to do, the only thing that makes sense to him. Then, without warning, the atmosphere changes. A shadow slips through the corridor, silent, quick, and deadly. An assassin appears, moving with trained precision. Toto immediately tenses, every instinct flaring to life. He wonders where this intruder came from and why he feels so familiar. The assassin's eyes narrow on him, recognizing the face before him. So, the princess has a slave now? He sneers inwardly, recalling how his previous attempt to eliminate her had failed. Before Toto can react, the assassin seizes him, mocking that he isn't strong enough to put up a fight. The grip tightens around Toto's throat, and the assassin whispers that the boy's only mistake was being unlucky. But then an impact from behind. Era strikes the assassin across the back, her eyes cold and sharp as steel. Her voice cuts through the air as she declares that if anyone is unlucky, it's him. The assassin collapses to the ground, defeated before he can even comprehend what happened. Era exhales lightly, brushing the dust off her hands. She mutters that it doesn't even feel satisfying anymore. These pests never seem to listen. Toto, still catching his breath, stares at her with wide eyes, a flicker of both awe and fear running through him. Just what kind of girl is she? Era calmly calls out to Debola, her loyal servant, instructing her to clean up the mess. Pests, she says, have snuck into the palace once again, and she knows Debola can handle them. Toto, witnessing all this, stands frozen, unable to believe what he's seeing. His mind reels. Is she even human? Era turns to him, her expression softening slightly, and asks if he has now realized his own strength more clearly. But Toto, still dazed, can only ask who she really is. The servants around them exchange uncertain glances before one finally murmurs the word that confirms his suspicion: princess. Only then does Era realize that she has never properly introduced herself to him. She straightens her posture, meeting his gaze with quiet dignity, and tells him her name: Era Lurene, daughter of King Shaden, and princess of this kingdom. The revelation hits Toto like a lightning strike. The girl who washed him, fed him, and fought beside him, the one who called him her pet, is royalty. A wave of disbelief rushes through him. By now, Era has already begun to test the boundaries of her restriction. The laws imposed upon her forbid her from speaking of her past or revealing her true mission, yet those rules never said anything about her abilities. And so, she uses them without restraint. She had, after all, beaten a trained assassin into submission and turned her into a personal maid. She now speaks with conviction. She tells Toto why she needs him. The lives of the royal family are in constant danger, she explains. He has the potential to become stronger, strong enough to protect not just her, but everyone she holds dear. Her words carry a quiet desperation as she pleads for him to grow, to learn, to become strong enough to defend her family. Toto can't help but think that she's insane. Yet, in the same breath, he finds himself captivated by her unwavering light, her courage, her will to fight for something greater than herself. Without realizing it, he feels the stirrings of loyalty, of a desire to protect her and the people she loves. Later, the scene shifts to the palace courtyard. The queen's voice echoes through the halls as she calls out for Toto, who has hidden himself away in embarrassment. Gil and Leon soon find him, both wearing matching looks of exasperation. They inform him that their mother is looking for him. Toto glances at them, tense and awkward, while Gil narrows his eyes and scoffs. What is that expression? Gil says coldly, stepping closer. Have he already forgotten who picked him up? Toto insists that his owner is Era. Gil scoffs, then drags their mother over to assess the situation. After becoming Era's servant, Toto learns quickly that the members of the royal family live under constant threat. Attempts on their lives are in everyday danger. It appears that the princess intends to assign him to protect the king and queen during their upcoming visit to a neighboring country. Yet the queen treats him oddly, as if he were a doll, dressing him in strange outfits that make Toto feel ridiculous. Gil clarifies that he has formally appointed Toto as the personal servant to their parents for the trip. They are traveling to arrange Era's marriage to a prince from that neighboring land, and Toto will need to prove his worth. He must watch what he says, control his expressions, and report everything. Toto responds that if Era's fiancé turns out to be unworthy, there will be no need for reports. His terse confidence implies he would deal with the matter himself. Era reflects on her attempts to train him and admits that Toto shows remarkable promise. If Toto and Debola accompany the royal couple, she believes there will be no problems. With them nearby, the brothers will be safe and everything should proceed perfectly. That optimism falters, however, when Debola enters with urgent news. A messenger from the neighboring country has arrived bearing alarming tidings. Prince Julius has been attacked. Era's thoughts snap into sharp focus. An assassination attempt on Prince Julius threatens to complicate everything. She realizes, with mounting dread, that if she allows events to follow a certain path, the kingdom might fall by her 12th birthday, an outcome connected to the reason she was reincarnated into this world and tasked with protecting her family. She runs through the names and faces that matter: her father, King Lawrence; her mother, Queen Julia; Leonhardt, the eldest son, 17 years her senior; Gilbert, the second son, 12 years older; and Era herself, the youngest. She had believed that shielding her immediate blood would be enough. But marriage changes that calculus. Whoever Era marries will become part of her family, and that means the definition of family must be broadened for safety's sake. Prince Julius, the injured noble, is a prince of limited political weight who is nonetheless rumored to have a half-brother. Severing ties with him could be disastrous for diplomatic relations. Era chastises herself for not clarifying earlier what she means by family. For now, however, and for the sake of security, she resolves to treat Julius as if he were part of her family. An assassination has been made against him. The possible collapse of the kingdom by Era's 12th birthday presses on her like a prophecy in motion, its edges sharp and unavoidable. She knows the household's lives are fragile and interconnected. Any new member by marriage becomes an extension of that collective vulnerability. To preserve the realm, she must extend her protection to those who, though not yet family by blood, will soon be tied to them by alliance. However, there is no point in shifting her focus from protecting her parents and brothers to someone living in another country. Yet, Era cannot help but wonder how could she possibly protect the prince. The thought troubles her deeply. She confides in Debola that she is worried about Julius, fearing what might happen if he were to be injured. If only there were someone who could protect him in her place. Debola, sensing the tone in her words, questions whether Prince Julius has perhaps already captured her heart. Toto overhears this exchange, and before Era can respond, she hastily denies it, insisting that it is nothing like that. She does not even know what he looks like. Still, she reminds herself that he is her fiancé, and it is only natural that she worries for him. At that moment, Toto enters without warning, apologizing for the intrusion. Debola scolds him sharply, exclaiming that a man cannot simply barge into a lady's room like that. Toto argues that he did knock, but Debola retorts that he should only enter after being granted permission. He points out that Era herself has always entered his space without knocking, prompting Era to interject, dismissing the argument entirely. She says she does not care. Toto is merely her pet, after all. Forcing a pet to knock before entering is utterly ridiculous. Debola stands speechless at Era's declaration. With quiet composure, Era dismisses her, instructing her to go and to inform her immediately if there is any news about Prince Julius. Once Debola leaves, Era turns to Toto, asking what is the matter. It seems that Toto truly dislikes being treated like a puppet by her mother. His tone changes as he asks whether Era, or perhaps her family, has any acquaintance with the prince of the neighboring country. Era shakes her head, denying it. Toto hesitates, saying he only asked because he overheard Debola's earlier remark. Era reassures him, softening her voice, that he does not need to speak so formally with her if it is difficult for him. He replies that it is not difficult at all. She then reveals the truth weighing on her mind: there has been an assassination attempt targeting Prince Julius. It remains unclear what exactly happened to him, but the uncertainty gnaws at her. Since he is her fiancé, she cannot help but be worried. Toto wonders if Leonhardt and Gilbert could have been involved. Era, thinking aloud, admits that she is certain their marriage would elevate the prince's standing in his homeland. That alone might have been enough reason for someone to try to eliminate him before he could meet her parents. After that meeting, their engagement would become official, and any opposition would be futile. The realization chills her. If the prince were to die, she would find herself in a most difficult position. She cannot begin to guess what her father might be thinking in all of this, but one truth is clear to her: if Prince Julius truly becomes her fiancé, she cannot allow him to die. Toto is about to speak when Debola suddenly bursts into the room, her expression pale and urgent. She announces that there is another problem. Prince Julius has arrived. He is here, at the palace. Era freezes, her mind struggling to process the news. What does all of this mean? She had received no notice, no letter, no message, nothing about the prince's visit. Debola quickly explains that the prince arrived without any prior warning. Even the ambassador had been caught off guard and appeared utterly astonished by the sudden arrival. Era doubts that the crown prince would act so recklessly without a good reason. Could this perhaps be a deliberate insult? Or is there something far more serious behind this unexpected visit? She wonders what kind of person he truly is, for this kind of bold behavior speaks of either great arrogance or great desperation. Toto offers to go and check the situation, but Era shakes her head and instructs him not to. Instead, she orders Debola to prepare everything necessary. Composure returns to her expression as she resolves to meet her fiancé face-to-face at the royal castle, specifically in the Shadden throne room. When she arrives, she formally apologizes for making Prince Julius wait, explaining that there had been urgent matters that delayed her. The king then addresses Julius directly, asking what brings him to Shadden personally on this day. Prince Julius bows slightly and speaks with calm authority. He begins by asking for forgiveness for his abrupt manners, introducing himself formally as Julius, crown prince of his kingdom. What he wishes to discuss, he explains, concerns the treacherous attack he recently survived. The king's expression hardens. He recalls hearing from the ambassador that Julius had been attacked and that his life was in grave danger. Julius confirms that it is true there had indeed been an assassination attempt against him. However, as they can see, he survived unscathed. He explains that he had learned the ambassador was already en route to Shadden, and he could not allow the man to arrive worried about his well-being. Therefore, he came himself, in person, to assure them that he remains in good health. The king leans back, eyes narrowing as understanding dawns. In other words, the ambassador may have been aligned with the attackers. Those who sought to kill Julius were also attempting to sabotage the engagement to ensure Era's father would cancel the alliance before it became official. Now, seeing Julius here in person, the king cannot help but acknowledge his boldness and determination. This is no ordinary man. He is neither fool nor coward. He exudes the confidence of someone who fully intends to survive whatever comes next. It becomes clear that the orchestrator behind the attack was Julius's own half-brother, meaning Era's fiancé is crown prince only in name. If Julius were to marry Era, the king of Shadden, her father, would become one of his strongest allies. Their union would fortify Julius's claim to the throne, giving him the support he needs to withstand any further plots against him. And if Julius does one day ascend to the throne, her father's political power and influence, as his steadfast supporter, would expand immeasurably. This is a critical moment, one that will decide the balance of power between two kingdoms, and perhaps the future of Era's destiny itself. The king says that he understands him, and the most important thing is that he is safe. He adds that the prince must be tired from his journey, so he will have a room prepared for him. Julius expresses his deep gratitude to the king, clearly moved by his kindness. The king then adds that he will also introduce him to his daughter, mentioning that she is very sweet and that he hopes the two of them will get along well. The king further says that the ambassador should still be in the castle and, being quite concerned about Julius, he suggests that the prince meet with him soon. Julius replies that he will go and thank the ambassador personally, but just at that moment, Era enters the room. She explains that she came quickly after hearing that her father had called for her. The king smiles warmly and says that this is Prince Julius from the neighboring country, asking his daughter to introduce herself. Era steps forward gracefully and greets the prince, saying that it is a pleasure to meet him and introducing herself as Era. Julius bows slightly and greets her in return. As Era looks at him closely, she notices something unusual. He seems to be injured. Turning to her father, she hesitantly asks if this is her fiancé. The king, slightly puzzled, asks if there is any problem. Era responds that she is not entirely sure, but it seems the prince is wounded. Concern fills her voice as she asks if they should call for a doctor. The king looks toward Julius and asks if he is indeed hurt, but Julius assures them that it is nothing serious, just a scratch. Era, however, remains worried and asks the king if she may personally take care of his treatment. The king, pleased by her kindness, immediately agrees and instructs Debola to assist her. He mentions that the inner courtyard would be the best place for this since the flowers there are beautiful and it offers peace and privacy. Era nods and replies that the inner courtyard is her garden, a place she tends to with care. She adds that there, she will be able to learn a lot more about Julius. Era appears excited yet curious as she looks at the prince, asking him about the rumors she heard that someone had tried to kill him. The prince seems surprised at first and asks her who told her that. Era explains that everyone in the palace is talking about it, that there was an assassination attempt on the prince's life. The wound he showed earlier, she realizes, must have been from that attack. Julius calmly insists once again that it is just a scratch and expresses his gratitude for her concern and kindness. Era shakes her head gently and tells him there is no need to thank her. However, she notices the faint shadow of pain in his expression and remarks that he still has a large bruise left. As she continues to tend to him, her curiosity deepens. She asks whether he truly intends to marry her, for from what she understands, he is the crown prince of his kingdom and yet someone is targeting his life. Her voice softens as she says that if this marriage is meant to symbolize the proof of alliance and support between their two kingdoms, then his safety and intentions carry a much deeper meaning than simple formality. He wants participation as his rightful place, yet if he continues to suspect that she has poisoned his drink, he might as well give up the throne right now. His words carry a sharp wit, but also a trace of amusement. It says a lot about the scale and boldness of his personality. This unexpected remark makes the prince laugh aloud, the tension in the air instantly breaking. He